Okay, Assalamualaikum class. So today we'll be going into chapter 9. So this will be on multimedia authoring tools. So since we have covered the hardware part of a computer system, let's go into what software we will be using when we are developing any multimedia project. Okay. Alright, so if you take a look here, there are some tools that we can use to create and edit multimedia element. For example, we can use a word processing tool. As we all know, word processors are used for editing text. It can be used to create, the content of your project. If you need to do some storyboard, some letters. So if you want to share any text documents with each other, you can also use a word processor for that. So word processors, an example of that is Microsoft Word. So basically you're dealing with the textual part of your project. Okay, so if you want to share any text documents with each other, you can also use a word processor for that. All right. Okay, so usually word processors, it comes bundled in an Office suite. What bundle means is that usually Microsoft Word, for example, it comes in a set with other software that is given by Microsoft. So if you purchase an Office suite, if you purchase an Office suite, usually inside there it comes with of course your word processors, some spreadsheets, databases, presentation application, email. So you have things like Excel for your spreadsheets, you have Access if you want to create a database. If you want to have presentation, you can use PowerPoint. Okay, if you want to use an email, you can use Outlook. So usually this comes in a bundled and it's called an Office suite. Right? Okay, also there is this software called an OCR software. OCR basically stands for Optical Character Recognition. Okay, so this software is used to convert bitmapped characters into electronically recognizable ASCII text. Usually this software is used when you have a scanner. Okay, let's say you have a barcode scanner. Okay, so in order to scan that barcode, you need OCR, which is optical character recognition. So when you scan that barcode, okay, it will transform whatever data it will transform from the barcode into textual data, meaning this will be in ASCII text. Okay, so also if you have a scanner, a regular scanner where you want to scan a text document, for example, you have a letter you want to scan, so you can just use a scanner for that, and then it will transform that into an image inside the computer. But you cannot edit an image. So if you want to, let's say you want to edit the text inside that document and you don't want to retype those texts, you can use an OCR software for that. So it will detect whatever text that you have on your image, okay, and then it will transform that into ASCII text. So when it is in ASCII text, you can always edit that, since that is the format that the computer understands in terms of text characters. Okay. Alright, so the next type of software that you can use is a painting and drawing tools. Alright, so there's a difference between a painting software and a drawing software. A painting software is used to create and modify bitmap images. So as we all know, there are two types of image. We have a bitmap and we also have a vector. Okay, so if you want to create a bitmap image, most probably you will be using a painting software such as Photoshop. Okay, you have Paint, you have Fireworks and things like that. But if you want to create vectors, okay, the best software to do that is a drawing software. Okay, so inside there you can create vectors using that particular software. If you want to draw something, that's why it is called a drawing software. Okay, so an example of a drawing software is Adobe Illustrator. You have CorelDRAW, okay, Freehand, Designer, Canvas, blah blah blah. Okay, so these can be used to create vectors. Alright, so the difference between bitmap and vectors: bitmap usually deals with colors, so basically that's what it's called painting. So you are kind of editing the colors that are inside your picture, the pixels. Okay, you're converting the colors that are inside there. Whereas a drawing software, we're dealing with the lines in order to create that particular vector. Alright. Okay, so the next software we have is a 3D modeling and animation tools. Okay, so if you have a 3D model that you want to create in terms of a 3D image, for example, okay, you can render these objects in a three-dimensional perspective. So when it is in 3D, you can always view that objects in different directions and angles. Okay, so some examples of 3D modeling and animation tools, we have Vectorworks, we have Autodesk Maya, Strata 3D, and Avidsoft Image. So these can be used to model your 3D scene. Okay. Alright, so then we have image editing tools. So we have things like Photoshops, okay, that we can use to retouch, we can enhance the bitmapped images that we have, okay, and you want to I don't know, maybe remove a particular element. Say you have a picture and you want to remove the spots on your face, okay, you want to change the color of your clothes, all right, the color of your hair. So this can always be retouched using Photoshop or any image editing tools. Okay, so the next type of software we have is a sound editing tools. Okay, so when we talk about sound, we know that sound is made up of waves. All right, so we can always edit the frequency or the amplitude, or you want to change or you want to cut certain parts of your audio. You can always do that using a sound editing tool such as Adobe Audition. Okay, you also have Audacity. Okay, so softwares like that we can always use to edit segments of your sounds with great precision. Okay, next thing we have is animation, video, and digital movie tools. So if let's say you want to create an animation, so the software that you can be using is Adobe Flash or Adobe Animate. Okay, so what you're dealing with frames and keyframes. So you have these different pictures, so when you play it very fast, you can create your animation. Okay, when it comes to a video, so there are various software that you can use to do that as well. You have Adobe Premiere Pro, you have Final Cut Pro, you have Filmora. So there are many video editing software that can be used to create, edit, and assemble your video segments. Okay, so these are some tips that can be used to produce your multimedia project. So let's say you want to save time on how you can set up your page. So this means that every single time you do your project, it doesn't mean that you have to create it from scratch. Okay, there are templates that can be used, there are pre-made styles that can be used. So for example, you have a pre-made template, meaning that let's say you want to create a letter. All right, so instead of you basically, okay, when it comes to a letter, you know that at the top you have address, then you have dear whatever, then you have your the content of your letter, and then you have your signature, and then wherever. You must know the format when creating a letter. Okay, so if you don't know that, you can always use a template. Okay, so when you download a template, okay, what all you need to do is you can just fill in the blank areas, okay, with the content that you want. So that's why template is easier for us to use, because it has been created for you to follow its specific style that it provides. All right, whereas a wizard, okay, a wizard is a bit different than template. A wizard, if you take a look on the screen here, okay, you will notice that instead of with a template, it's ready-made, so all you need to do is fill in the blanks, right? Okay, with a wizard on the other hand, it provides you with this blank spaces. Okay, so all you need to do is just write in whatever content that you want and just click OK, and it will automatically set up those content onto the places that is intended to be. Okay, so whereas a template, you need to fill it in yourself, whereas a wizard, it will create it for you by providing the content here. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. All right, a pre-made style on the other hand, we're dealing with the design of your project. For example, let's say I want to create a presentation slideshow. Okay, so instead of me designing my own template, designing the styles of it, okay, all I can do is just choose a particular style that I want. Let's say I want this theme. Okay, I can just choose that, and every single pages inside the slideshow will be set up according to that theme. Okay, so style deals with the aesthetic as a part. It deals with the aesthetic part of your presentation. Okay. Alright, moving on. Okay, you can also improve the appearance of your document. So instead of you writing the whole in the content of your project in like paragraphs, which looks very long and boring, again, you can use tables, you can use bullet points, you can use numbered lists, you can use symbols. So these can be used to simplify and really organize the content of your project. Okay, you can also use these particular things right here: tables of content, headers and footers, indexes, so that your readers can find the information that they want easier. For example, inside your project, you provide table of content. So if the user wants to access that particular section, okay, then they can just look at the table of content, or they can take a look at the header and footer. Sometimes at the header you have chapter 3, okay, so from there they know which part of the section that they're looking at. All right, indexes is are the ones where they provide words. Okay, if you want to find a particular word within that context. All right, so they can just take a look at the back. Let's say I want to search about multimedia, so multimedia is on page 3, 5 and 7, so you can find that easily by looking through that. So that is index. Okay, another tip that you can use is a global change feature. So a global change feature can be used to make a quick change replacement. For example, inside Microsoft Word, okay, inside PowerPoint, there is this settings that you can use, meaning that, let's say I accidentally wrote the name Robert wrong, okay, and I want to change how I spell Robert. Instead of me finding it manually one by one, I can just find the word Robert, and I can just replace the word Robert with the correct spelling, and it will automatically search all of the Robert inside that document for you and replace those words for you. Okay, so that is a global change feature. So next thing we have is a grammar and spelling checker. Okay, so for example, you can find this in Microsoft Word, where you have a spelling checker at the bottom there. So if there's a wrong spelling or wrong grammar, then it has that squiggly red line or green line, okay, inside your document. Okay, so this is used to reduce grammatical errors. Okay, and also a tip that can be used, all right, is in order for you to easily find your file or to identify the information, okay, make sure that you name your file properly. Okay, I know sometimes we can't be bothered to name our files, and we just write try 1 or try 2, try 3, and then final. Okay, I've done that myself, so I know. So please make sure that you rename your file properly so that you can easily find it later, right? Okay, so now let's talk about multimedia authoring tools. So as we all know, multimedia authoring tools is used to create an interactive multimedia application by designing the interactivity and user interface. Okay, so let's say I give you Photoshop. Is Photoshop an authoring tool? No. Why not? Because multimedia authoring tool deals specifically by providing interaction within your application. So if I give you Adobe Flash or Adobe Animate, that is an authoring tool. Why? Because that software can provide interactivity within that project. Okay, so multimedia authoring tools is used to create an interactive multimedia application. Okay, so what we do in there, we design the user interface as well as how the user can interact within that application. Okay, so it works by, first of all, the authoring tools can combine multimedia elements into a single cohesive product, meaning that, okay, within that project, we can combine all the different elements. We can have text in there, we can have image, video, audio, animation, whatever we're going to put inside that project. Okay, you can organize, edit, and import those elements into that particular project. Okay, so that deals with the content and how we want the project to look like. All right, also, since authoring tools provides interactivity, okay, it will be able to control how and when these elements will appear. Okay, so by doing that, we can provide an integrated environment, okay, for combining the content and functions of a project. And what it means by this is that when we provide interactivity, okay, we must know let's say you have a project, okay, on that particular page, okay, you have a button, all right, that button is a start button. If the user click on that button, okay, where can it go? Will it go to the next page or will it go to the previous page? Okay, so you must know how to provide that particular interactivity. Okay, so to do that, you need programming. Okay, so it will respond to the user input. So if the user click on that button, it will go to the next page, for example. Okay, so there is a function that you need to write, you need to code in order to make that work. All right, so this allows interactive user control within that application. Okay, so moving on, in multimedia authoring tools, multimedia elements and events are referred to as objects. So if you, let's say you have a page inside your project, okay, and then you have buttons, you have images, okay, and you have these different elements inside there. So each element that you place inside your page will be referred to as objects. So let's say I have a button, so my button is an object. So this object will have a hierarchical order of parent and child relationship. Okay, for example, the object is the parent. So if you want the object to do something, okay, then it must have a child. The child is the properties and modifiers assigned to that object. Let's say if I want to click on that button, okay, so when the user click on that button, what will happen? So you must assign properties and modifiers to that object so that it will know when the user click on that what it needs to do. Okay, so when a message is received, object will perform their task according to the assigned properties and modifiers so that the objects will be able to take care of themselves according to the program or the coding that you've placed on that particular object. All right. Okay, so when it comes to authoring tools, there are three types that you need to know. We have card and page-based authoring tools, we have time-based authoring tools, and we have icon and object-based authoring tools. So I'll go into each one so that you know the differences between the three. Okay, so the first one is card and page-based authoring tools. All right, so when we talk about card and page-based authoring tools, the elements inside that project will be arranged in either like pages of a book or cards in a stack. Okay, so just imagine that your project, okay, it has lots of pages in there, right? Imagine you're creating an application. Okay, so inside there you have lots of pages that you can go through. So if you want the elements inside the project to be viewed as like a book, meaning that you want to click next, 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 as like a book where you can just flip through the book, the pages. So imagine that is card and page-based authoring tools. Okay, where the elements that are connected will be sort of in a linear way. Okay, so this is used when the content of a project consists of elements that should be viewed individually. So you have some elements on one page and then you have another elements on the other page. So these elements that are in different pages will be linked, okay, in an organized sequence. Okay, so you can just go through each pages by clicking on the next button and so on. Okay, so on the user's command, the user can jump to any page that they want based on the structured navigational pattern. So let's say right now you're on page 1. So if you want to go to page 3, maybe you can click on like a certain button that can lead to that page 3. Or you can just click on the next button so that it can go to page 2, for example. Okay, so your project may contain media objects such as buttons, text fields, and graphic objects. So again, like I've mentioned, when you have an object and you want it to do something, you need a programming script. Okay, so this programming script will provide your object coding or command that it needs to do. All right, so this is known as an event. Okay, so an object, let's say an object is your button. Okay, the object here is your button. So when the user clicks on that button, okay, so when the user clicks, that is known as an event. Okay, what is happening? Event is what is happening. So the thing that is happening right now is user clicking on that button. Okay, so then when the user click on that button, then an action will occur. All right, so what action that you want it to do will be defined by the programmer. Okay. Alright, so this is an example of how card and page based authoring tools work. So if you take a look at the screen right here, so within the objects programming script, it will contain a message where the event handler will execute to perform intended tasks. So let's say you have this particular button right here, okay, and you want this button, when the user click on it, okay, the event is clicking the button. Okay, when the button is clicked, the next page will be opened. So we need to provide a programming script. So this is how the programming script goes: to handle button up, go next page, and button up. So this is how the program will write the script. Okay, so now if you take a look here, okay, card and page based authoring tools usually is made up of two layers. All right, you have a background layer and a foreground layer. So a background layer usually is shared among many cards and pages, meaning that, imagine this like the design. Okay, so kind of like a PowerPoint, all right, where you have the same design from page to page, all right, which this is shared among different pages. And the thing that is that change is the foreground layer, meaning that what is on top of that background layer. So the content here can always be changed specifically according to that page, what you want to put on there. Okay, so yeah, so this is an example of a card and page base. You can have like button here, next button, so meaning it's like a book. Okay, when you click next, then you go to the next page, click previous, go to the previous page. All right. Other than that, you can also provide user input as well. So let's say you want to have a quiz. Okay, so you place there, you just click check answer, so it will check the answer for you. So this is how a card and page based authoring tool is created. So some example of card and page based authoring tools is live code and toolbook. So if you want to create a project or an application, okay, using card and page based authoring tools, so these are some software that can be used to do that. All right, moving on to the next type of authoring tool. So we have a time-based authoring tools. All right, so time-based authoring tools is used when the elements and events inside your project needs to be organized along a timeline. So this time-based authoring tools is the most familiar with everyone. Okay, so an example of a time-based authoring tools is Adobe Animate or Adobe Flash, where you will have a timeline, okay, and whatever objects, wherever elements, wherever events that you want to place inside your application will be organized along that timeline. Okay, so if you have a timeline, you know that that authoring tool is a time-based authoring tools. All right, so this is usually used when you have messages that have a beginning and an end, which is great for creating animation. So animation, since we know that it will play from this part to this part, we know that it has a beginning and an end. Okay, so time-based authoring tools is perfect for that. All right, so how it works is that graphic frames will be organized sequentially along the timeline. Again, we will be working with a timeline, so you will have, each page will have their own frame. Okay, will have their own scene. Okay, so that scene, if you want to go from pages to pages, you can change from scene to scene, you can change from frame to frame. All right, you can always jump according to which part of the timeline that you want the user to go to, if you get what I mean. Okay, so elements inside the frames at a given location or time can be triggered based on the sequence of events. All right, navigation and interactivity can be achieved by allowing the program to jump to any location in a sequence. So let me explain this to you. Let's say within your application you have different pages, right? Okay, you have a start page, you have an FAQ page, you have a I don't know, an info page, for example. Okay, so to get from one page to another, okay, you need to jump from one frame to another. Okay, so you know that each frame is the pages that you've created. Okay, each frame will be located along the timeline. So if you want to get to another page, then you need to link that frame to another frame. Okay, so there is linking involved. So let's say the user click on the button, okay, and it will jump from that frame to another frame that you want the user to go to. Okay, so again, this also needs programming. Okay, you need to program a script so that the user can jump from one frame to another. Okay, So these are some examples of time-based authoring tools that can be used. So you can use Adobe Flash or Macromedia Flash. Okay, so this can be used to deliver rich multimedia content on the web. Okay, so if you place your Flash file on the internet or on your web page, you might need to have a Flash Player plugin in order to play that. Okay, and in order for you to create your application using Flash or Animate, okay, you need to have a scripting language called an action script. Okay, so again, when we code, right, there are many languages that we can use. So within Flash, the programming language that we use is called an action script. Okay, so another software that can be used as well is called Director, okay, which is Adobe Director or Macromedia Director. The concept is the same as Flash, okay, except the difference here is maybe the name of what they call those things, right, the term. All right, so in this case, CAST is a multimedia database that contains all of your multimedia elements. So within Flash, we don't call it CAST, we call it a library. Okay, so that library can contain all of the multimedia elements that we place inside that project. So this is the multimedia database that contains all of the elements that you want to place inside your project. Did you get it? Okay, and in Director, Score is a sequencer made up of frames that allows you to display, play, and animate the members inside CAST. So inside Flash, we don't call it Score, we call it Timeline. Okay, the concept is the same except for they use different terms for it. Okay, inside Director, instead of using ActionScript as a scripting language, it uses Lingo. All right, again, different term, but the concept is still the same. So this is an example of a time-based authoring tool. So if you take a look here at the top here, this is Adobe Director. Okay, so you will have a score here and you also have a cast. So inside the cast, these are the elements that will be placed inside your frame or your scene. Okay, so this is the score, this is the timeline that is used inside Director, whereas this is Flash. Okay, so you will have different frames. So if you want to go from one page to another, you can jump from one frame to another. Okay. Okay, so this is the last type of authoring tools, which is an icon and object-based authoring tool. Alright, icon and object-based authoring tool provide a visual programming approach to organize and present multimedia elements, allowing user to achieve functionality without scripting. So the difference between icon and object-based authoring tools and the other two that I've mentioned earlier, the other two uses scripting language, meaning that in order for you to provide interactivity within your application, each object needs to have a script which is written or coded by the programmer. Okay, but with icon and object-based authoring tools, you don't need to write your script. Instead, you can just use a visual programming approach. Okay, that's why this is called an icon and object-based. Why? Because if you take a look at an example here, okay, you have these different icons, all right, which you can just drag and drop inside your project whenever you need. So you don't have to write coding for that. Let's say you want to put in music, or you need to just drag in the icon. Okay, if you want to place I don't know, a page inside here, you don't need to have a timeline to do that. Okay, you can just drag and drop this inside here. Okay, so it uses a visual programming approach, okay, meaning that you don't have to write the code yourself. Okay, you can just drag and drop the icon and object based on what you want. All right, so the elements and events inside your project will be organized as objects in a structural framework or process called flowchart. So this is important if your project have a complicated navigation structure. So if you think that your project has very complicated structure, meaning that maybe you need to go from the first page to the 10th page, and then from the 10th page you need to go to the 7th page, and from the 7th page you need to go to the 11th page. Okay, the structure of your interactivity, if it's too complicated, you can use icon and object-based authoring tools. Why? Because when you drag and drop these inside here, okay, you can, the elements and objects that is placed here will be in terms of a flow chart, so you can easily track where the flow of your project is going. Okay, so how it works, again, I've explained this earlier. Okay, you just need to drag the icons, which is the objects from the library, into your flow chart. Okay, so these icons represent elements, events, and actions. So elements are the things that you want to put inside there, inside your project, things like image, sounds, videos. Okay, you can just drag and drop inside your flowchart. Okay, then if you want to provide events, okay, let's say you have a button, and on that button you want to have an event where if the user click on that button, okay, you can actually drag and drop that event as well onto that element. All right, and from that element, okay, from that event, okay, an action can occur. So you can also perform this event, this action according to what you want, just by dragging and dropping the icons. All right, so if you take a look here, okay, you can provide some sort of programming script here, maybe loading, clock ticking. Okay, instead of you providing your own action, I mean writing or coding your own action, okay, you can just drag and drop these from the library here. Okay, so again, okay, you can create your own application just by dragging and dropping. Okay, for example, you have an image, aces.jpg, so this will be used as the background. Then you have button. All right, so you have 1 2 3 4 5 buttons. Okay, inside there you have introduction, about notes, aces features, blah blah blah. So these things can be provided just by dragging and dropping these icons. All right. Okay, so as we all know, there are 3 types of authoring tools, right? We have card and page-based authoring tools, we have time-based authoring tools, and we also have icon and object-based authoring tools. All right, so from these 3 tools, okay, it's up to you which one you want to use. Okay, so when you are choosing an authoring tools, you can consider the following features that it provides. Okay, so you can take a look at the editing and organizing features. Okay, authoring tools can include editors inside there, in which you can use to edit your multimedia elements. For example, inside Flash, okay, you can actually create your own image, you can draw certain things inside there, so you might not need other editors to do that. Okay, because it can easily be created inside Flash. All right, so maybe if you want to create an animation or draw something inside here, maybe time-based authoring tool is the best one for you, instead of using an icon-based tool, because with an icon-based tool you can't really draw things inside there. Okay, that is an example. All right, so the more editors your authoring tool has, the fewer specialized application you need. So the more editors that you have inside your authoring tools, you don't need to use other tools such as Photoshop or I don't know, Premiere Pro to edit these elements. Okay, you can just edit everything inside one particular authoring tool. All right. Also, okay, authoring tools may include features that can help organize your materials. Okay, for example, by providing a visual flowcharting system to illustrate your project structure. So let's say your project is, the structure of the navigation is very complicated. Okay, so instead of using a time-based authoring tools, which is organized along a timeline, you find that very confusing, you can use an icon and object-based authoring tool instead. For example, authorware. Okay, so because with the icon and object-based authoring tools, you can just drag and drop the icons, so everything will be provided in terms of flowchart, so it's easier for you to visualize how your navigation will go. All right, and if you use things like Adobe Dreamweaver as well, okay, it can also provide navigation diagrams to help describe and organize the navigational flow of your project. So instead of you using other authoring tools, you can use Adobe Dreamweaver, because you can easily see what is provided inside there as well. Okay, instead of using other editors. Okay. All right, the next type of features we have is the programming features. All right, authoring tools will offer one or more programming approaches. Okay, so if you feel comfortable using visual programming, okay, then you can use a icon-based tool. All right, so if you want to have, I don't know, if you want to create specific program for your project, okay, maybe you can use time-based authoring tools. All right, so depending on what kind of programming features that you want inside your authoring tool, so you can determine which software is suitable for you. All right, visual program with cues, icons, and objects. This is the simplest and easiest authoring process, where you would only need to drag the elements icon to use it. So if you don't have programming experience, then you can just use visual programming. Okay, so things like software such as card and page based or time based authoring tools, you use programming with a scripting language. So this is a very high level language where it will allow navigation and control in your project. You can always program it yourself. All right. Okay, next we have is interactivity features. All right, this allows the end users of your project to control the content and flow of information, which can be provided through simple branching, conditional branching, structured language. So again, when you do your own programming, okay, your own scripting, okay, you can control the flow of information. Okay, simple branching is just a simple if. Okay, if the user click on the button, then what will happen? Okay, so let's say the user click on a button, then it will go to the next page. So this is known as simple branching. Okay, but if you want to provide something a little bit more complicated, then you can do conditional branching. So this uses if-then decision. Okay, so for example, if the user click on this button, okay, it will do this. But if you click on this other button, okay, then it will do something else. So you provide more condition to that program. All right, so if you want things a bit more complicated, then you have things like functions, you have things like message passing, you have timers, you have a lot of things that you can do inside your program by using a programming language. All right. All right, so this features is called performance tuning and playback features. So achieving synchronization is difficult in a multimedia project because the performance of computers varies widely from one another. Therefore, authoring tools should allow precise timing of events by using a scripting language to specify timing and sequence of processes. Sometimes getting synchronization within your project can be a bit tough, because the playback from one device to another can be a little bit different. So you might need to set up your project according to the user's playback device. All right, and also, okay, it is important for you to check how your project will look like during playback. All right, so whenever you're developing, while you're developing your project, always continually assemble and test your elements. So for example, I've done this particular part, play it back to see if everything is synchronized, everything is played back according to how you want it to look like. All right, so this allows you to check how the assembly looks and perform within your project. All right. Okay, so the last features here we have is the delivery features. So this is very important. Okay, so delivering your project may require you to build a runtime version of the project. Okay, so when you develop your project, you must make sure that you export a runtime version or a standalone version, okay, so that it allows the project to play back without the complete authoring software and all its tools and editors. This allows the project to be widely distributed. For example, if you create a project inside Adobe Flash or Adobe Animate, for example, okay, so whenever you want to open up the project, you need to use Adobe Flash or Adobe Animate to open up your project. All right, so this is impossible for you to distribute. You don't want to give this Adobe Flash project to your users, okay, because they're not the one who's developing it. Okay, they're the ones who uses your completed project. All right, so the completed project needs to be exported as a runtime version or standalone. Usually this has the extension of .exe. So if you notice, every software that you use, okay, inside your computer, where you double click and you want to open it up, okay, it has .exe because that is a runtime version. Okay, the user doesn't have to have the file that the programmer has or the developer has in order to open up that project. So this is very important, okay, so that you can distribute your project widely to all of your users. Okay, so the user doesn't need to have Adobe Flash or Adobe Animate or whatever software that the developers use in order to create that project. All right. Okay, so last but not least, we have is cross-platform and internet playability features. So it is important to use authoring tools that allows you to transfer your project across multiple platforms. Again, so if you have specified that your project is cross-platform, let's say I develop my project. Inside my project, I've planned it out that I need the project to be cross-platform between Windows and Mac. You must make sure that whenever the user play it on Windows and also Mac, it needs to work. Okay, so it is important that your project can be transferred across multiple platforms according to what you specified. Okay. And also, if you want to put it on the internet, on your web pages, okay, you must make sure that it follows the context of HTML and DHTML, because that is the language that the web pages use in order to open it up on the web page or on the internet. Okay, so it might require special plugins or some other code structures like Java or JavaScript within that HTML. Alright, so moving on to making instant multimedia. So what it means by instant multimedia is that not every project that you create must be used using the 3 previously mentioned authoring tools. Alright, you don't have to create your application specifically only using these 3 tools. Okay, there are also other tools that is a lot easier to be used. Okay, hence you are able to create an instant multimedia project. Okay, so the scope of a project will determine the appropriate production tool to be used. So if you think that these software suffice, okay, is enough, all right, you can just use this software to do your project. Okay, so to make an instant multimedia, some modern office productivity software can perform many simple multimedia tasks such as Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Excel, because some tools that are inside the software, okay, is enough to create your multimedia project. All right. So for example, you have Microsoft Word, okay? So inside your Microsoft Word, if you want to place text inside there, yes, you can place text inside there. You can also place image inside there. So as we all know, multimedia is a combination of elements, right? So when you have a combination of these elements and you create a final project out of that, so that is known as multimedia, okay? So the simplest one is this. Let's say you want to create a poster, okay? Since you don't want to use Photoshop, you can just use Microsoft Word for that. You can, okay? But it won't be as amazing, or as the effect won't be as great as Photoshop, but just using Microsoft Word sometimes can suffice. All right, so depending on what you want to do, okay, making an instant multimedia can just be done by using this simple software, okay, such as word processor. Okay, another thing we have is spreadsheet, okay, which is Excel, Microsoft Excel. Okay, inside there you can embed objects with other application. For example, you want to place a picture inside here, so if you click on this picture, okay, maybe it will open up a different picture. Okay, you can always do that by embedding stuff inside your project. Okay, PowerPoint, okay, I believe PowerPoint have a lot of things that you can do inside there. Okay, you can do multimedia linking and embedding features. You can place audio inside there, you can place video inside there, you can place sound inside there. Okay, you can even link from one page to another page. Okay, so Microsoft PowerPoint can also do that. So this is the most simplest authoring tools that you can find inside your computer. All right, and I guess that is it for this chapter. So I guess I'll see you in our next chapter. Bye class.